Hi, it's me, Ben again, and after the success of part 1, which got over 70,000 views and so much positive feedback, I'm back again with the long-awaited part 2.
And this one is about something that has driven me crazy for the last year. Planning permission. But more so the process of getting everything together that you need to submit a planning application, which I've finally done. But it's taken a year of various different surveys and advice just to get to the point where I can put a planning application in, which I won't even find out the result of for 18 weeks.
So having a look, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, basically I had to get my architect, who'd be doing the drawings, and my planning advisor, Jeremy from Bluestone Planning, to come down together and basically have a little walk around the site, have a look around the field with me. I can then explain what it is that I wanted to achieve building the lake with a big lodge on the side of it at the time. So I showed them the area. Calvin was then able to go away and start getting some drawings done of the site so that we can obviously attach that to the planning application, which you've seen. And Jeremy was able to explain there and then the viability of my idea, just his thoughts on it as a planning advisor, and then go away and think about what surveys we were going to need to get booked in and organised to be able to progress forward. But all of this starts the costs rolling. Just to get a couple of people out to the site to have a look, you could be talking between £400 and £650. So then, once they'd gone away and got together their stuff, I received my first drawings from the architect of the area. These were at a cost of £774 for this drawing to be done. And then the invoice from the planning advisor, Jeremy, to come out and essentially get everything together to put a pre-planning application in. Now that pre-planning application is something that we decided to do so that we knew exactly everything that the council would want to see in a full planning application, so that we didn't miss anything out when we go to putting in the full planning application. And that fee was £852. Now, for Calvin to be able to do his drawings of the area, he asked me to get something called a topographical survey done. And he pointed me in the direction of a company or a guy that was able to do this. And he came out in his van, was here for about half the day, and he essentially had a big tripod, just like what my camera's on, and placed it at different points of the field. And a topographical survey gives you a drawing basically with a load of lines on it, and it has points with different heights of the field, so that when it comes to doing the actual drawing you can overlay those so that when the council take a look at it, or the planning board, they can see the different heights and the different levels of the field. Now to get this done, it cost me £595. So the next bit. After Jeremy had come out, walked around the field that initial time, he told me to get booked in something called a preliminary ecological appraisal, something that he knew I was going to need. Now basically what this is, which is mad to get your head around, is my planning advisor telling me that I need to go to a survey company that can do all the surveys for the animal-based stuff, and that company then needs to do a survey of what surveys I need to have done. Yeah. So what they did was turn up, this girl walked round the field for about an hour, literally, maybe less than, but I'm going to call it an hour, and said, oh, you could have badgers here. There's a ditch there and a bit of water. You could have newts here. You could have owls here. You could have water vole here. And went round and created a list of everything that she thought could potentially be impacted by a project like this happening. That means I then had to have surveys done of every single one of those things. Great. But that initial preliminary ecological appraisal survey and report to be produced and come back, which took over a month to do after the initial 2, whatever it was, of waiting for them to come out and do it, cost me £886.80. So, preliminary ecological assessment done, and we wait our month and it comes back. And it tells us what surveys I have to have done that are kind of animal-based. One of them was a badger survey, one of them was a bird survey, one of them was a water vole survey, and the final one, was the dreaded newt survey. So these were all done on different days, by the way. They weren't done on the same day. This was like 4 different people on 4 different days at an average cost of 800 quid a survey. However, the first 3 sailed through. The newt survey, which I was at home and present to watch that day, was rather interesting because the woman turned up. She had like these test tube things, and similar to a hot tub, the little dipstick that goes in to see if it's reacted, and had to test any potential sign of water within 500 metres of where the new little pond lake thing was going. 500 metres up the top of hills in ditches that are nowhere near where it actually is, testing for newtweed, basically. Luckily, from a stroke of God, there was no signs of newts, and therefore, that's good, because you don't want to go to war with the newt police, because they will basically stop any project that you try to do happening. If there's newts, you're screwed. But luckily, there was no newts. But yeah, 800 quid a survey, 4 surveys, £3,200, and several months later, just at the point of having the surveys done, to then get the reports back from those surveys was another few months. So, other things that I had to have done in the meantime that's just worth kind of skating over is a highways span survey done. Even though we've got excellent visibility at the entrance to this place and where anglers will be coming in and out, I still had to do a highways span survey to show that there was excellent visibility to the left and the right. A simple picture or a Google Earth screenshot with a picture that I done myself was not good enough. So I had to have a specials highway surveys officer come out at a cost of, you guessed it, 800 quid to come and do that survey and produce the report to it. I also had to have a drainage survey done. Now this was at a cost of £1,200, and again it was there to please highways to make sure that we weren't going to flood the road. And don't forget about the archaeological survey that I had to have done to make sure that a woolly mammoth wasn't buried under there or a new version of Stonehenge. So all of those documents together, I then had to send off the pre-planning application. Now, this took around 12 weeks worth of waiting from the time that we submitted it to the time that we got it back. There was also a fee for putting that in. And then when it came back, it had some comments. Now, one of those comments was from, I don't even know, some tree association in the area that protect all the trees. I'm sure they do some great work and I'm sure that it's necessary, but we had some comments from them that they were worried about all the oaks that we have here. I then consulted that with my planning advisor. He said we needed a load of arboricultural surveys, which we ended up having. However, I could have easily proved those oaks were far enough away from what we were doing just with like a Google Earth measurement. But apparently, again, this just isn't good enough. And I think this is where there's like a problem with planning. Like so much more would get done if people could just put almost easy, cost-effective ways of doing it forward that still proves the same point. And then obviously more building projects in the UK generates more money. So I generally think there's a fundamental problem with planning there. However, going off on a tangent, we had to get the arboricultural surveys done. They also weren't happy, the planning department, with the size of the projected lodge that we'd put in for. So I had to rethink it and go down to a glamping pod that's obviously kind of can be dropped on a concrete pad and is more mobile, as they wanted more of a temporary structure that was a little bit smaller and more in keeping with the landscape. So I changed to a glamping pod. So that meant that I had to have some new designs done with Calvin from Weaver Khan based on the existing ones. And they also wanted a little bit more detail about lighting, access, and all of those sorts of things on the design. So I had to go to Calvin and get that changed. This cost £800. And then I had to go and get a landscaping plan with details of all the different types of trees, bulrushes and plants that were going to be planted around the lake. I think it's also called a design statement, and that was at a cost of £500. Now, all the tree surveys, which took so long to get done, were done by a company called Arbtech, and I cannot believe just in this process how much back and forwards you've got to do, because every single survey you've got to fill out a form saying that you need to have the survey done. You then have to submit it. You then have to wait for a date to be given, and then that date, that takes a week just for them to email you back with some dates, and then you go back and agree to one, and then it takes a week for them to come back and say, yes, that's fine. And it's like, this is what makes the whole process so long. It's just like the gaps between emails, and then you send an email and one comes back saying that someone's on annual leave for holiday. And like the whole process just ends up going on so long. But eventually we got someone booked in and got them out to start doing the first tree report, which was just to prove that the oaks were over 15 metres away from where the water was going to be, and it wasn't going to harm their roots. In fact, I don't even think it was the water, it was the access road that we had to prove that the oaks were far enough away from. There wasn't going to be harmed by the works of the access road, which I don't even know how that could harm them. Like, being honest, how can that harm them? So yeah, frustrating process. And then we realised that it would be beneficial to have, because of how much the tree people put in, a stage 2 arboricultural survey, which is what was recommended, but you have to get your stage 1 done first. We got that done. And then it's the whole process again. You've got to email in the tree company that are doing the surveys, send off the form, wait a week for them to give you the dates. The dates then extended because they're getting busy. So it's just months and months and months and months and months. But altogether, the tree surveys and getting them together. And when they're actually here, it's less than an hour that they're actually here. It was so ridiculous. But that cost around £3,000. Now, the planners also requested a business plan. Now, that was nice and easy. I was just able to put that together in PowerPoint. It's fairly simple and basic, but that was kind of easy to put together and do. I just included numbers of kind of what I thought I was going to charge per night for the lodge, base it on a 50% full capacity rate throughout the first 3 years, and then kind of give a figure of what that would then generate, include that it can generate income for local businesses in the areas, like takeaways and all these kind of things that could help support the planning application. So there we have it. That's basically all the forms that I had to do to get together my final planning application. Now, to put everything together, write a detailed, in-depth report and all the rest of it, I then had my final bill from my planning advisor, Jeremy, and that was of £2,334. I then was informed I had a bill from the council to put this in. Now, the council actually charge based on the hectares that the plan is used around here. And I've never heard of that before, but okay. Now, that charge it was pretty much £1,000, just underneath £1,000 to put that in. But there we have it. All costs done and on the table. And we've spent £18,591 in total, just to get to the point to put in a planning application that I'm waiting for the result on that could be rejected within the next 18 weeks. But there you have it. That is the planning, the process of putting in a planning application. I'm hoping that my next video will be a lot more exciting than this, which will be me, probably in the thumbnail with a great big digger behind, in the field, hopefully starting the project with a piece of paper that says I've gained planning permission to do it. So again, thank you for watching this video. If you made it to the end, I probably wouldn't have, so if you have, champion. I'll be back with part 3 as soon as I've got a result from that planning, albeit positive and negative, to continue the process of showing you what it's like to build even just a small fishery in the UK and all the costs involved. Please hit that thumbs up button, give some positive feedback, get in the comments section, ask your questions below. I'll try and respond to all of them. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't before, and hopefully I will see you again soon.